Okay.
Yes.
So breathe deep and die shallow, or die shallow, tipping life in your favor.
Yes.
How do we do that, and why the title?
The process that I take through the book is really first and foremost looking at where you are, just looking at who you are, why you are the way you are. The premise of the book and really the platform for the book is really context and perspective. I define those two in a very simple way, in which is context are simply the experiences or experience that has happened to you. And I define it no more than that, because it's just the event. No matter how many times
It is what it is.
It is what it is. No matter how many times you remember it, it'll always happen the same way. Perspective, while you may be out of control of your context because it's over, it's done with, you can't change it. Your perspective is something you can. It is a culmination of your individual responses to each one of those experiences. And when you add those responses up, those individual responses up, they become your overarching perspective in which you have relationships with people, how you see yourself, how you go to church, how you see the world, how you see politics. It becomes that lens in which you see life.
And I do workshops stress workshops, where we're trying to avoid stress and learn how to deal with stress.
Right.
But I do workshops, and I tell people to stand up and breathe. And in the book, you talk about the various ways and the various issues, religions and things that use deep breathing, yoga,
Yes.
etc. And so what is the relationship between, for you, the breathing deeply, which I understand as a singer, or die shallow?
Well, I used breathing techniques, and not just techniques, but I talk about the breathing that's used in martial arts and yoga and other various religions to create a visual picture of what's happening. Just medically speaking, when your body receives more air, it functions better. That's just the basic, simple concept of it. And the same thing when you translate that concept into every aspect of our life, when we take time to live our life to maximize every moment, to maximize every opportunity, then as you get more air, your body operates. When you take more time to experience everything, the better outcome you have in your life, the better perspective you have of your life. And even when things go wrong, you have a different mindset, you have a different lens, you have a different view to look at this and make it actually work for you. Because your goal is not to die shallow, your goal is to live. And in order to live, I want to live abundantly, and so I don't want to just breathe just to exist, but I want to breathe deep, which transforms me from existing to living.
And you want to die empty.
Right.
With everything that was given to you out there.
Right.
And
right.
that's what you're trying to do. Get people to take back their life.
Right, correct.
And how do you recognize someone that's not breathing deeply, someone that's just kind of going through life? And of course you talk about dreams in here, your dreams and who you've shared them with. But how do you, as a life coach and having all that experience, how do you recognize a person that's breathing shallow?
Well, it's really easy, actually. Everything is dictating what they need to do. They have kids and they feel they have to go to the parent-teacher meeting. They have a husband, they got to run home and cook food. Men have to run to work, and after they run to work, then they got to run home and cut the grass. And it seems when you listen to them, from their standpoint, everything, their life is constantly dictated by the things they have to do, rather than finding pleasure in saying, hey, I'm going to go home, I got to take care of my kids, but I can't wait to see her, I can't wait to play with her. Wives, I got to go cook, but this is something that after when I cook, it's my downtime, it's my time to relax. The perspective, because of your perspective, it changes your conversation. It doesn't change the responsibility,
You're right.
but the way you have the conversation about the responsibility is indicative of whether you're dying shallow or whether you're breathing deep.
And in conversation with individuals on an everyday basis. I know in my book, I call it Awakening the Living Dead.
Right.
Because we're going
Correct.
through, we're breathing and we believe we're existing, but we're not.
Exactly.
We're existing, but not really living.
Yes.
And so give some of the tips that you gave in your book that would help a person to be able to identify, you've already identified, help them identify whether they're living shallow. But help them to give them some tips of what you would first start with to help them to get back onto the road to recovery?
Well, the first thing I would do is, before I even start giving tips on how to progress your life forward, it's important, and which is the point of the first chapter, is to look at where you are, to take some time to look at what's happening. Why do you think the way you think? Why do you interact with people the way you interact? Those are important things. The four things I talk about in assessing your inventory is dreams, faith, strengths, and weaknesses. And I redefined them according to the perspective that I have, to empower other people that may have a perspective that I used to have, to have a perspective that I have now. Dreams, there are two points to those. The first part about dreams is they are direction. If you want to get out of the cycle that you're constantly in, you have to have something to look forward to motivate you to get out of the cycle. I can always identify people that are dying shallow because they're in a cycle of doing things. They're in a cycle of relationships. Women go from one type of man, one man, to another man, but when you look at the type of men they're dating, it's the same type of men. Men go from one relationship to the next relationship, and when you look at the type of women they're dating, it's the same type of woman. When you look at career choices, when you look at parenting, it's the same old cycle. So what happens is when you have a dream, the dream takes you from where you are to where you want to be. And if you look at kids, and there's so much, but when you look at kids, they dream of being something that they're currently not. And based on that, they start acting out, they start behaving, not according to their circumstance currently, they start behaving according to what they see themselves to be. And that's the significance of dreams. If you want to escape where you are to move where you want to be, you need to start dreaming. So dreams are first, direction. Secondly,
well, now don't forget that, because it's the secondly is where we're going. But don't you believe that a person cannot dream what they have not either experienced or seen?
Well, yeah, the exposure is important. And most people, when they start dreaming, they're just dreaming because they have seen something. They have been exposed to something.
So it's important to expose yourself, not expose yourself, y'all. But
please don't expose yourself. Keep it closed, keep it veiled.
But try to get as many experiences of different things,
And naturally, that's going to happen. People are constantly exposed to a plethora of experiences. So focusing on getting exposed, let's use what you have first. That's the goal of the first chapter. Use what you have. Start dreaming with what you know. Because your dreams, when we go into the second point, your dream should be bigger than you. Whatever your experience currently is.
Otherwise, it's not a dream.
Yeah, so even the experiences that you constantly have right now, it will be bigger than what you've experienced. And naturally, the more you start progressing towards your dream to the point that your dream becomes your reality, then your dream, or when you hear other people speak about it, they say vision, your vision then extends. And so I don't need you to focus on being exposed, because it's like researching information for a book. There's so much information out there that you'll become overwhelmed by the wealth of information and never get started on what you want to do.
Analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
When we come back, we're going to get that second